Have you ever noticed how some men seem to attract incredible women without apparently making any effort? It looks like magic, but it's not. It's pure applied psychology that you never learned. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the secrets that will completely transform your ability to attract and conquer the women you truly desire. The strategies you're about to discover are so powerful, they could be censored. If you're tired of being invisible to the women you're interested in, pay close attention to what I'm about to say. This might be the most valuable information you've ever received about female attraction. What most men don't understand is that female attraction doesn't work like in the movies. It follows specific psychological patterns that, once understood, can be triggered with almost surgical precision. The problem? No one ever taught you how the female mind actually works. You've been programmed with ideas that simply don't apply to the real world of seduction. And that's why you keep getting stuck in a rut and getting the same frustrating results. Imagine what your life would be like if you knew exactly what to do and say to spark genuine interest in the most attractive women around you. What would it be like to wake up knowing you have the tools to create real and consistent attraction without cheap tricks or manipulation? That's what I'm going to show you today. Before we begin, if you're enjoying this content, leave your like right now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next advanced strategies. Female psychology has many layers, and today we're just starting to unravel this mystery. First, the fundamental law of attraction you need to understand immediately. Attraction is not a conscious choice. I repeat, attraction is not a conscious choice. Women don't wake up in the morning and decide, today I'm going to feel attracted to a kind man who treats me well. Attraction is an automatic emotional response triggered by specific evolutionary triggers. And here's the secret that will change everything for you. The more you try to convince a woman to like you, the less attractive you become. Think about that for a moment. Every time you try to impress a woman, show your value, prove you're worthy of her, you are subliminally communicating that she is above you on the value scale. You are saying, I need to work hard to deserve your attention. And guess what? That instantly kills any attraction that could exist. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Women are attracted to men they perceive as having higher value than them. I'm not talking about money or looks. I'm talking about perceived social value. The way you behave, how you position yourself in the world, the way you react or rather don't react to situations. The good news? You can learn to embody these high-value behaviors even if you weren't born with them. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Let's get straight to the point with a concrete example. Imagine you meet an amazing woman at a party. You talk, exchange contact info, and you feel that initial connection. What do most men do? Text her the same night or first thing the next morning. It was great meeting you. Loved our chat. And so begins the pattern of pursuit that destroys attraction before it even blossoms. What should you do? Absolutely nothing. For at least 48 hours. This isn't a game, it's strategic psychology. When you don't initiate contact immediately, you communicate, I have a busy, interesting life. Meeting you was cool, but it didn't change my routine. This creates positive tension that makes her think about you much more than if you had sent that predictable message. Do you notice how we desire what we're unsure if we can have? It's a basic principle of human psychology. Uncertainty breeds interest. When you are completely predictable, you kill the mystery. And without mystery, there's no discovery. Without discovery, there's no excitement. And without excitement, there's no attraction. And for those thinking, but isn't this manipulation? No, this is understanding human nature and aligning your behavior with it instead of fighting against it. It's like understanding that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. You can ignore that truth, but it will still be true. Now let's delve into the second crucial principle, the magnetic polarity of attraction. Nature created men and women with complementary energies for a reason. The most powerful attraction happens when you amplify your masculine energy, not when you soften it trying to please. Here's the fatal mistake I see men making every day. They try to win women over by acting like friends. They agree with everything they say. They never express disagreement. They are always available. They respond to messages in seconds. They cancel plans to see them. And then they wonder why they end up in the friend zone. The reason is simple. You are demonstrating low-value behaviors. You are communicating that your life revolves around her, and nothing is less attractive than a man without his own purpose, without clear direction, without defined boundaries. I'm going to give you a practical exercise that can immediately transform your dynamic with women. The next time you're talking with a woman you're interested in, disagree with her on something small. It doesn't have to be aggressive or disrespectful. Just express a genuinely different opinion. Actually, I see it differently. And then explain your point of view with quiet conviction. What happens next might surprise you. Instead of pushing her away, you'll notice a subtle increase in interest. Why? Because you just demonstrated that you're not like all the other men, desperately trying to please her. You have your own convictions. You don't need her validation, and that is incredibly attractive. Polarity works like this. The more you act like a confident, decisive man, the more you allow her to connect with her femininity. It's a natural ballet that's been happening for thousands of years. When you try to be neutral, agreeable, and harmless, you sabotage this evolutionary ballet. And here's a truth few men understand. Women want to feel feminine around you. They long for a man who awakens that polarity in them. When you act like a friend, you deny them that fundamental experience. You're essentially saying, I don't see you as a woman, but as a generic person. And that will never generate attraction. The key to manifesting this attractive masculinity isn't in what you say, but in how you behave. It's your willingness to lead, make decisions, express direct desires, maintain your boundaries. It's your ability to remain unshaken when tested, and believe me, you will be tested. Now, if you're finding this content valuable, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave your comment below. Tell me which of these points is resonating most with you and why. Your feedback helps me create even more targeted content for your needs. Third fundamental principle, the paradoxical power of detachment. This is possibly the most counterintuitive concept, and yet the most powerful one you'll learn today. True attraction blossoms not when you pursue, but when you're able to let go. Think about all the times you've been intensely interested in a woman. You probably invested time, emotional energy, maybe even money trying to win her over. And the more she pulled back, the more you pursued. How did that end? Most of the time, with you even more invested, and her even less interested. There is a deep psychological dynamic at play here. The more you show that your emotional well-being depends on her interest in you, the less interest she feels. It's almost like there's an invisible scale. The more weight you put on your side in terms of emotional investment, the lighter her side becomes in terms of attraction. The true master of seduction understands that he must be the prize to be won, not the desperate hunter. And this requires a fundamentally different mindset. It's not about specific techniques, but about an internal posture of abundance and non-neediness. Have you noticed how the most magnetically attractive people you know seem strangely detached from the outcome of their interactions? They enter conversations without that I need to impress energy. They ask questions out of genuine curiosity, not as a strategy to keep someone talking. They express real interest, but never seem needy for reciprocity. It's this detachment from the outcome that creates a magnetic field around you. When you don't need a specific interaction to work out, you instantly become more attractive. Your energy changes, your body language relaxes, your voice tone acquires a resonant quality that is impossible to fake. Here's a transformative exercise. The next time you interact with a woman you find very attractive, tell yourself beforehand, I will allow myself to fully appreciate this interaction without any expectation of where it will lead. It's almost like a meditation. You are present, engaged, but completely at peace with any outcome. What happens when you approach interactions with this mindset? You instantly become more authentic. There isn't that underlying tension, that need to control the situation to get a specific outcome. And it's this relaxed authenticity that is deeply attractive. Paradoxically, it's only when you are truly okay with the possibility of a woman not being attracted to you that you become more attractive in her eyes. It's when you can genuinely tell yourself, if it's not her, it will be someone else, that you acquire that magnetic quality that makes her think, I want it to be me. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. You still show interest, you still express desire, you still take action. The crucial difference is that you do all of this from a position of choice, not need. You choose to pursue because you want to, not because you need to feel complete or validated. And here's a secret few men understand. Women have an almost supernatural ability to detect emotional neediness. She may not be able to articulate what she's feeling, but something about you just doesn't feel right when you're coming from a place of lack. It's like an evolutionary sixth sense developed to identify emotionally stable partners. When you work on yourself to develop this genuine detachment through personal growth, expanding your social circle, developing genuine passions, you naturally become more attractive, not as a tactic, but as a natural consequence of being a complete man in yourself. If you're enjoying these revelations, do yourself and that friend who could benefit a favor. Share this video right now. I also want to know in the comments below, what has been your biggest challenge in interacting with women? Let's build a community of men determined to evolve. Fourth, the principle of calculated scarcity. This is probably the most controversial of the principles we'll discuss today, but also one of the most transformative when applied correctly. Calculated scarcity is based on a fundamental truth about human psychology. We value what we perceive as rare, exclusive, or hard to get. Think about diamonds. They're not the rarest precious stone, but their perceived value is extremely high due to the controlled supply on the market. When you are constantly available, responding to messages instantly, canceling plans to see her, rearranging your entire life to fit into her schedule, you are communicating abundance, but in the wrong way. You're saying, my attention, my time, my emotional energy are infinite resources that you can have any time without any effort. And what happens when something is perceived as infinitely available? Its value plummets, not because it became less intrinsically valuable, but because the perception of value is directly linked to the perception of scarcity. Here's the practical strategy. You need to create legitimate scarcity of your time and attention, not as a manipulative game, but as a genuine reflection of a rich and fulfilling life. This means developing interests and hobbies that genuinely absorb you, cultivating deep friendships that demand and deserve your time, pursuing professional goals with determination and focus, practicing physical activities that improve your health and appearance, reserving time for personal reflection and inner growth. When you truly invest in these areas, something magical happens. You naturally become scarcer without pretense. Your unavailability isn't a strategy, it's simply the result of a life well lived. And here's the fascinating paradox. The more you invest in yourself and your own life, the less available you become, and simultaneously, the more attractive in women's eyes. Women instinctively sense when a man has a full life, rich in purpose and connections. That quality is magnetically attractive. Does this mean you should never respond to her messages? Of course not. But it means you respond on your own time, when it makes sense within the natural flow of your life, not interrupting important activities or moments of concentration, just to keep a text conversation going. Let me give you a practical example. You are working on an important project when you receive a message from her. The old you would immediately pause what you're doing to respond, subliminally communicating, any sign of attention from you is more important than my own goals. The new you, operating from the principle of calculated scarcity, finishes what you're doing first, with total concentration, and only then responds. The difference seems subtle, but the impact on the attraction dynamic is profound. And when you finally respond, do it with total presence and genuine interest, not with short, distracted replies. It's the quality of your attention when you offer it that makes all the difference. A thoughtful, well-crafted response after 3 hours is infinitely more powerful than immediate, superficial replies. Calculated scarcity also applies to information about yourself. The man who reveals everything about himself in the first interactions eliminates any mystery, any room for curiosity and discovery. Share genuine aspects of who you are, but allow her to work to discover the deeper layers of your personality. Remember, female desire thrives in the space of imagination. When you are a completely open book, there's no room for her to project intriguing possibilities about who you are. The art is in revealing enough to create interest, but keeping enough in reserve to sustain curiosity. And here's the most important key. Calculated scarcity must come from a genuinely abundant life, not from manipulation. If you're just pretending to be busy while you're actually anxiously waiting for a message from her, she will sense the incongruence. Women have an incredibly accurate radar for detecting authenticity. Now, you might be thinking, I'm in a phase of life where I really don't have that much going on. How can I create this legitimate scarcity? The answer is simple but challenging. Start today building a life worth living regardless of any woman. Fifth, and perhaps most fundamental of all, the power of authentic presence. In today's hyper-connected world, true presence has become one of the rarest resources and consequently most valuable that you can offer. When I talk about presence, I'm not just referring to your physical presence, but your ability to be completely engaged in the present moment during an interaction. It's the difference between being physically with a woman while your mind wanders and being with her with total attention, genuine listening, and real curiosity. Most men never experience the transformative power of authentic presence because they are constantly distracted by thoughts about how they're doing, distracted trying to plan the next clever thing to say, distracted by internal insecurities, distracted by future goals. How do I get her home? Instead of fully immersing themselves in the experience of the moment. Here's a truth few men understand. When you are fully present with a woman, you instantly differentiate yourself from 99% of the men she's ever met. Authentic presence is so rare that, when experienced, it creates a practically indelible impression. Think about the last time you felt truly heard and seen by someone. Not just someone waiting for their turn to speak, but someone completely absorbing your words, responding not just to the explicit content, but to the deeper meanings of what you were expressing. How did you feel? You probably felt an immediate and powerful connection with that person. It's exactly this kind of connection that you can create when you develop your capacity for presence. And here's the most fascinating aspect. Authentic. Presence doesn't require you to be the smartest, best-looking, richest, or most charismatic man in the room. It only requires you to be fully available and engaged in the present moment. I'm going to share a simple but profound exercise to develop this quality. The next time you're talking with a woman, make this your only goal: to completely understand the world as she sees it. Not to agree, not to debate, not to impress, just to genuinely understand. Ask questions that deepen your understanding, not questions designed to steer the conversation where you want it to go. When she responds, listen as if that were the most interesting information you've ever heard. Observe not just her words, but the emotional tone behind them, the body language that accompanies them, the beliefs and values they reveal. What happens when you approach interactions this way? First, you instantly become more interesting because you become genuinely interested. Second, you create an emotional space where she feels safe to reveal herself more deeply. Third, you gather valuable information that will naturally inform how the interaction can evolve. Authentic presence also manifests physically. When you are genuinely present, your posture changes, your gestures become more deliberate, your eye contact becomes more consistent and confident without being invasive. Your voice acquires a resonant quality that communicates quiet authority. All these changes happen naturally, without conscious effort, when you are truly anchored in the present moment. And here's the most potent aspect of presence: it creates a gravitational field around you. When you are completely present, you become the center of the social environment, not because you're trying to call attention, but because you're emanating a quality everyone instinctively values. The irony is that most men are so worried about seeming interesting that they never develop the capacity to be genuinely interested. They are so focused on projecting a certain image that they miss the opportunity to create a real connection. And in the end, it's real connection that leads to genuine and lasting attraction. If you're enjoying these strategies, do yourself and your friends a favor. Share this video right now. I also want to know in the comments below, which of these strategies will you implement first and why? Your engagement helps me create increasingly relevant content. Sixth principle, the principle of nonverbal communication that magnetizes. You've probably heard that over 90% of human communication is nonverbal. In the context of attraction, that number might be even higher. The uncomfortable truth is that what you say matters much less than how you present yourself while you speak. Let's start with the physical basis of attraction, your posture. The way you occupy space instantly communicates your level of confidence and internal comfort. Men with low self-confidence tend to minimize their physical presence, slumped shoulders, closed chest, head slightly lowered, weight shifted to one side. The man who naturally attracts female attention does the opposite, occupies his space with quiet authority. Shoulders back and relaxed, not held stiffly like a soldier, chest open, neck elongated, weight distributed evenly on both feet. This isn't just an aesthetic matter. Your posture literally alters your internal chemistry, reducing stress hormones and increasing dominance hormones like testosterone. Do this experiment. Right now, wherever you are, adjust your posture. As I've described, feel the immediate difference in your emotional state. This isn't a seduction technique. It's a tool for internal transformation that, as a natural consequence, drastically increases your attractiveness. The next crucial element of non-verbal communication is your movement. Men anxious to please tend to make quick, abrupt, and unnecessary movements, constantly adjusting clothes, hair touching their face, drumming fingers, shaking legs. These micro-movements communicate internal discomfort and insecurity. The magnetically attractive man moves with purpose and economy. His gestures are deliberate. His pace is consistently slower than the surrounding environment. He doesn't react to every external stimulus. There's an almost feline quality to his movement. Relaxed but always ready, never wasting energy. Try this in your next social interaction. Deliberately slow down your movements by 20%. Speak a little slower. Gesture with more purpose and less frequency. Resist the urge to fill silences with nervous movement. The impact on how people respond to you will be immediate and profound. The third critical nonverbal element is your eye contact. Nothing communicates your level of internal comfort more instantly than the way you use your eyes in social interaction. The insecure man avoids consistent eye contact or, at the other extreme, maintains a fixed, uncomfortable stare. Magnetically attractive eye contact is relaxed, consistent, and confident, without being invasive or dominating. You maintain contact for most of the conversation, especially while listening, but allow natural breaks while speaking. Here's a transformative exercise. In your next conversation, practice what I call triangular eye contact. Instead of fixing on just one eye, which can become too intense, or completely looking away, gently alternate between the person's left eye, right eye, and the center of their forehead, forming an invisible triangle. This creates a sense of consistent yet comfortable contact. The fourth nonverbal element that few men master is strategic touch. Appropriate touch at the right moment can accelerate emotional connection more than hours of conversation. However, it's also the area where most men err by doing too much or too little. Touch that generates comfort and connection is confident but respectful, intentional but light. Start with socially acceptable touches, a brief touch on the forearm to emphasize a point, a touch on the back when guiding her through a door, a handshake that lasts a second longer than conventional. The secret of effective touch isn't in the specific technique, but in the congruence with who you are and the moment. The man who touches awkwardly or with hesitation communicates insecurity. The man who touches with naturalness and confidence communicates comfort with his masculinity. Practice touch in social contexts with friends and family to develop that naturalness. Observe how charismatic and socially fluid people use touch. Over time, this will become a natural extension of your communication, not a consciously applied technique. The fifth nonverbal element that completely transforms your attractiveness is your facial expression. The human face contains 43 muscles capable of creating over 10,000 expressions. However, most men use only a fraction of that expressive repertoire, especially in situations of social tension. The magnetically attractive man has a lively, expressive face, but not overly reactive. His default expression when relaxed isn't tension, worry, or excessive seriousness, but one of slight amiability, what some call the Mona Lisa smile, that slightly amused expression of someone who knows a pleasant secret. To develop greater facial expressiveness, practice in front of a mirror. not to memorize expressions, but to break the facial rigidity that many men develop as an emotional defense mechanism. Let your face respond naturally to different thoughts and emotions. Over time, this expressive fluidity will become automatic. The sixth and perhaps most subtle nonverbal element is the use of voice. Not just what you say, but how your voice transmits your message. Men anxious to please tend to speak in a higher register, with inconsistent volume and a fast pace. Their sentences often end on a rising tone, as if every statement were actually a question seeking approval. The man with magnetic presence speaks in a lower register, with consistent volume and a pace deliberately slower than average. His sentences end on a falling or neutral tone, communicating certainty instead of seeking validation. A simple exercise to develop a more magnetically attractive voice. Record yourself reading a paragraph of text. Then, read the same text again. This time imagining you're speaking to someone you feel completely comfortable with, maybe a close friend or a young nephew. Observe the difference in vocal quality. The second version will likely have more warmth, emotional warmth, more natural tonal variation, and less underlying tension. Non-verbal communication isn't something you apply like a technique. It's a direct expression of your internal state. That's why the deeper work of attraction is always the work on yourself, on your natural confidence, on your comfort with your own masculinity, on your inner peace. The exercises I've described aren't tricks to seem confident. They are practices to gradually embody these communication patterns until they become your natural expression. Congruence, the alignment between what you say, how you move, how you express yourself, and what you actually feel, is what creates that magnetic aura that women find irresistibly attractive. If this content is generating valuable insights, for you, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I also want to know in the comments below, which aspect of nonverbal communication do you feel you need to develop most? Let's build this community of evolving men together. Now let's move on to the seventh and final transformative principle, the art of creating healthy sexual tension. This is possibly the most misunderstood and yet most essential element of effective masculine seduction. Most men make a fundamental mistake in their interactions with women. They confuse connection with attraction. They create pleasant conversations, find common interests, maybe even establish comfortable communication, but completely fail to generate that electrical charge of sexual tension that transforms a friendly interaction into a magnetically attractive experience. Here's the truth few men understand. Comfort and attraction, while both necessary, operate on opposite poles of the emotional spectrum. Comfort creates safety, but it's tension that creates desire. Your goal isn't to eliminate tension, but to learn to create and manage it in a healthy and respectful way. Healthy sexual tension is born from the space between the known and the unknown, between what's been revealed and what's yet to be discovered. It's the energy that arises when there's clear erotic potential, but not explicitly stated. It's the emotional charge that builds up in the gap between desire and satisfaction. How do you create this tension naturally and authentically? Let's explore the key elements. First, through the confident expression of your desire. Most men completely hide their romantic or sexual intention, interacting with women they're attracted to as if they were just friends. Others go to the opposite extreme, expressing sexual interest in an inappropriately direct or crude way. The master of sexual tension expresses his interest in a subtle but unmistakable way, through a look that lasts a second longer, a voice that acquires a slightly deeper quality, a smile that communicates, "I know you know what's happening here." He doesn't hide his desire, but he also doesn't impose it. He presents it as a natural, comfortable fact of the present moment. Second, through the strategic use of physical proximity. Observe masters of social tension in action, and you'll notice how they create intimacy bubbles even in crowded social environments. They don't invade personal space, but gradually reduce the distance as the connection develops. A powerful exercise is what I call the proximity dance. You move slightly closer during moments of more intense connection and pull back during more neutral moments. This movement creates an almost hypnotic pulsation that intensifies the physical awareness between the two of you. Third, through the use of strategic silence. Most men fear moments of silence in interaction, interpreting them as communication, failures that need to be immediately filled with more words. This anxiety kills the tension before it can even arise. Silence, when embraced with confidence, is one of the most powerful tools for creating sexual tension. It's in the spaces between words that erotic energy has room to expand. Practice maintaining comfortable eye contact during these moments of silence, without the need to fill them with nervous chatter. Fourth, through verbal polarity. Your words can create tension when they express the duality between appreciation and challenge. The compliment that is also a slight challenge. I love how directly you express yourself. Kind of rare to find someone like that. The observation that contains both recognition and mystery. There's something about you that intrigues me. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is. This language creates open loops in the female mind, questions without immediate answers, intriguing possibilities that beg for exploration. It's the opposite of the purely logical, linear communication that characterizes platonic interactions. Fifth, and perhaps most important, through strategic timing. Sexual tension is fundamentally a matter of timing, knowing when to advance and when to retreat, when to intensify and when to give space. This sense of timing cannot be reduced to a formula. It's an intuition you develop through experience and conscious attention. A guiding principle: when you feel that the tension has reached a high point, resist the urge to act on it immediately. Allow it to hang in the air for longer than feels comfortable. It's in that space of anticipation that desire deepens. A common mistake I see men making: they create a moment of tension and then, uncomfortable with the intensity, immediately break that moment with a joke or an abrupt change of subject. Learn to get comfortable in the fire of unresolved tension. That's where the alchemy of attraction happens. Healthy sexual tension never involves pressure, insistence, or disrespect for boundaries. In fact, scrupulous respect for boundaries is what creates the safe environment where tension can flourish freely. The woman needs to feel that, although the energy between you is intense, she always maintains her agency and choice. Finally, understand that sexual tension is a co-created experience. It's not something you do to her, but something you generate together through a dance of energy. Be attentive to her signals, how she responds to the intensity, if she pulls back or leans in, if she mirrors your energy or tries to neutralize it. The art is in finding that perfect point where tension is stimulating without being oppressive, challenging without being uncomfortable. This balance is different for each woman and each interaction. No universal formula exists. That's why your conscious presence in the moment, your ability to read subtle signals and adjust your energy accordingly, is so crucial. With practice, you will develop a refined sensitivity for creating and modulating this tension. You'll intuitively know when to intensify, when to ease off, when to let it build, when to turn it into concrete action. And it's this mastery, not memorized techniques or rehearsed lines, that marks the truly magnetic man in women's eyes. If this content is opening new horizons for you, do yourself and other men who could benefit a favor. Subscribe to the channel right now and share this video. Let's build this community of evolving men together. To wrap things up, I want to leave you with an essential reflection. The principles I've shared today aren't techniques to get women. They are paths to becoming a more complete, more present, more confident, and naturally magnetic man. The fascinating paradox is that when you focus on growing as a man, female attraction comes as a natural consequence, not as the primary goal. Your journey now is to integrate these principles not as external techniques, but as authentic expressions of who you are becoming. Start with one principle at a time. Practice it consciously until it becomes second nature. Then move on to the next. Remember that real transformation takes time. There will be moments of progress and moments of apparent setbacks. The important thing is to maintain commitment to your growth, regardless of immediate results. This is just the beginning of your journey. In the next videos, we'll delve deeper into each of these principles with practical exercises, detailed examples, and specific strategies for different contexts. So make sure you're subscribed and have the bell icon activated. I want to hear about your experiences in the comments below. Which of these principles resonated most strongly with you? What insights did you have during our conversation? What specific challenges are you facing in your journey of personal development and seduction? Your contribution not only enriches our community, but also helps me create increasingly relevant content for your needs. Until the next video, keep evolving, keep practicing, keep becoming the best version of yourself.